Okay, so we are up to Oisios Hey. Let's give a short recap. Going on until now, we brought the Maamar Vayehiyu Chayei, Vihyu's Pei. In order to explain the Kefil Halashon and the Pasuk, why it says Vihyu's and Chayei, he brings the beer and Chassidus on the Maamar Hazoyar of on the Pasuk Vihyu's Chayei. That explains first the pasuk Yisn Es Bakeli Malchus Adaneva. That Eretz is Malchus, and Malchus goes up on a higher level through having Hamshach of Koil in it. Then Sada, which is a higher level than Eden, goes up to a higher level through Melech Sada Neva, through the Avodah, and Sada is Nimshach, the Gilei of Melech, which is even higher than that. And the Maamar explains that Vihyu's Chayei, which is Malchus. Chayei is that there's the Hamshacha of these dargis of Koil and the darg of Melech, which is Nirmaz in Me'ah Shana, V'esem Shana, V'sheva Shana. That's the inyan of Vihyu's Chayei, the Maila and Malchus through these higher dargis that are Nimshach in it. And then Shnei Chayei is when this is Nimshach also in Biyah. The question of the Maamar was, why is an Negea to go into this whole beer of Yisn Es Bakeli in order to understand the answers of the question of why we're Moisef Shnei Chayei. The whole point of the answer is listed as Nimshach and Biyah. So it must be that the beer of Yisn Es Bakeli helps us understand the Maila of Shnei Chayei over Vihyu's Chayei. So we got into the whole beer of Yisn Es Bakeli, explained what Eretz is, what Sada is. Eretz is Chassidus HaMalchus, Sada is Primius HaMalchus, and we explained the Milo in Malchus that happens through being Mamshach Koil in it, through being Mamshach Yesod in it, because Pashtus Malchus, even though it's always Makabel from Yesod, but the level that it's Makabel from Yesod is just whatever is revealed through Dibur, which is a more external level of Yesod, which is Midas, and the Maila of Malchus is when you're Mamshich, the Midah itself, the actual feeling the person has, when that the way it is Mizgala in the Dibur, that's a Hisafa, that's a Yisrin, and Eretz, the way it is Misadas. And what we said is that this is the difference between Sada and Eretz. Sada, which is Primius HaMalchus, the higher level of Malchus is meant to relate and accept the inyanim of the person the way they are. Therefore, Sada is a keli for the level of Koil. The Chiddush is Tafkin Eretz, Tafkin Chassidus HaMalchus, when that also receives the things the way they are in the person. This is really the Chiddush of Yisrael Eretz. Okay, so we are up to Oisios Hey. Vorba Maamar. Earlier we said, why is it called Koil? Simple explanation why it's called Koil is because it includes all of the spheres before it. But the Maamar Vayehiyu, he says this that is called Koil is because Koil is the gematria 50. This goes on the 50 Shari Bina. What's the 50 Shari Bina? 50 Shari Bina is the way the Seichel affects the Midas. Just like a gate is the way something goes out from one place to come into another place, the way the other place comes into the first place. So the same thing, the gates of Bina is the way the Seichel relates to the Midas. There's many levels in this. There's the way Seichel starts looking for how to look at something, which is already a step away from pure Seichel. Pure Seichel doesn't have to have a specific way of looking at something. Seichel just says there's many ways to look at something. You could look at, there's 10 ways to look at something, and they're all true. They all have inside that perspective, inside that Nakuda. You could look at it like this, you could look at it like that. Why should you look at it a specific way? It's already the most edel ha'ifin of going towards Midas. And then for sure, the spilus that a person has from the seichel that he has, what excites him about what he's learning, but what makes him wowed by it, They're for sure things that are already closer to midas, and that's where the midah gets the inspiration from the seichel. These are called Sharei Bina. So when you say it is nimshach in malchus, so you say it isn't just giving the hergish that the person has into the dibur. You say it is also giving the dibur, the seichel, the chayis that's behind the midah is also nimshach in the dibur. Right? The person speaks about a hergish that he has. He's not just speaking about a feeling. So even though you always use the feeling, but he also gets also nimshach upon him in the dibur that the person is saying is nimshach also the chayis and the seichel that the person had as well. It excites him about it. So this is why you say this is called keil, because of the 50 Sharei Bina that are nimshach in Yisayt. It's 50 because 7 times 7 is 49. And then there's a 50 Yashar that's higher than Midas. That's what we know Shavuos is Shar Chamish. Anyways, so this is why you say this called keil, because of the Nun Sharei Bina. So now the Rebbe is going to start taking this on a roller coaster. Okay, meaning we're going to take up all the levels and we're going to pick them up a lot of notches, and then we're going to reach Atmos, moving to Pashat. Okay, we start moving Yisn Ba'aretz, Malchus, Debchinas Keil, B'Shnei. What's the Maila that we're mamshich in Chetzenis HaMalchus and Eretz through the level of Keil? It's really two things. First of all, the first thing is like what we said before, that even the fact that you're able to have in the dibur, the midah, the way it is in the person, that itself is a chiddush. Because usually the dibur changes it up and makes it more shallow. But we say to Mizu, now there's an additional point, the chiddush here is that you're not only mamshich the feeling, you're even mamshich the seichel. Seichel is higher than midas. Even if the seichel is the part of the seichel that will bring to the midah, but it's still seichel, it's still meichel. So that's an additional chiddush that you even mamshich that in that. Even mamshich that in Chetzenis HaMalchus. Now the Rebbe will say even more than that, they're connected to each other. The fact that we're able to be mamshich, the first yisrei, the midah, the way it is, comes from the fact that you're being mamshich in the Nun Sharei Bina. What's the connection? The midas and shayachim lazulas. Midas is something that connects to the person around, like we spoke about before. Even though, on the one hand, midas is really something within the person himself, and it's even a gear to the person himself. Meaning, the other person doesn't bother him, doesn't make a difference to him. It's not important for his life what you feel about him, right? It's an inyan in your nefesh. It's how do you react? How do you feel within yourself about what's going on around you? So it's an gear for the person himself. Dibur, on the other hand, is something that's completely for the zulah. It's just the way you express the things for the other person to know. For yourself, you don't need it. But still, it's still on the level of a person which connects to something around you. Even though it's within yourself, but it's that part of yourself that relates to the zulas. Right? A person himself doesn't, if there was no such thing as a zulas, if there was no such thing as other people, if a person would live himself in the world, there'd be no need for midas. There's no such thing as reactions. There's nothing to react to. There's no feelings towards anything. It's just you. So that means the fact that it's about the zulas means that it's the level of the person, the way it's already connected to other people. But meichin is different. The meichin is seichel, is the level of the person that has nothing to do with everything else. Meichin is the way the person himself looks at things. It has nothing to do with other people. Like we learned in the bar mitzvah, right? A person can sit himself, think of scholars, and he doesn't have to be anyone else in the world for him to have his perspective. So seichel is more of a inyan l'atzma. So says the Rebbe like this, the fact that when a person is mamshich from his midah into dibur, in fact, when a person speaks about a hegish, there's a miut in the oil of the midah. The fact that it changes up and it becomes more shallow, that comes from the fact that midas is something that relates to something around it. We'll explain why in a second. But this, that it's possible to bring into Malchus the way the midah of Zah is, without changing it up. Which is what it means, or even mamshech in eretz koil, the inyan of midas, the way it is. This is connected with the second pshat in koil. When the hamshacha comes from moichin, that's what causes that the midah won't change up. Because meichin is above the flower connecting to someone outside of you, which is the concept of dibur. So therefore, even if a person is going to be mamshech is hergish into dibur, but if in the hergish, if what's behind it is still in a revealed way, the meichin, because meichin is higher than being affected by things around you, therefore, even when the person will speak about it, it won't lose the way the person has it within himself. In other words, what we're saying is the fact that something changes up for someone else is because within the source, within the person, within the higher level, there's some sort of chshivus that you're giving to the zulas. Even if the chshivus that you're giving to the zulas is an oifen that it's part of you, it's part of your personality, it's not for the other person. But if it makes a difference what's going on around you, if you're being affected by what's going on around you, that's what's going to cause you that once you have to impile give to him, you're going to think, hey, 1 second, I have to change it up. But if what the highest that the person has within himself is from a level that the zulas doesn't make a difference, you're connected to the inyan just for the inyan itself, it's in a meichel nikkel level, in a seichel nikkel level. So then, even when there will be nimshach and dibur, the dibur can't affect it, because the highest that you have in it, the highest that, and the highest that you're giving over in it is the highest that's connected to the inyan itself, that has nothing to do with, it's not affected by anything else. So this, that koil, the midas k'meishu heim, could be nimshach and eretz, is because of the second pshat in koil, because the seichel is still being made in the middle. Okay. Now, there we'll take this a step further. This is still Seder Shtalshus. Even Meichen that's not connected to anything around you, but it's still Seder Shtalshus. Right? It's still Inyan Mugdal. This is the Chiddush of Melchus Adaneva. Yes, and it's Bakoili, even though you're being mamshech for higher dargis, but which dargis are you being mamshech? It's still dargis of Shtalshus. Melech l'Sadaneva, what's Nimshach, the Haisafa that comes into Sadeh, which is the inyan of mitzvahs, that's Nimshach through, that's mamshech Melech, which is even higher than Seder Shtalshus. Now that I will add and up the gather of L'maylam Seder Shtalshus and Seder Shtalshus. Haisif. Another being is that koil refers to seif, even higher than your seif. Why? Says Shayei nikah b'shem koil, u'lefi Shayei u'bekava emtzoi shemagia b'kesef seif. Zeh mashkos b'chiv b'shmayim v'aretz v'tirgem da'achad b'shmayim v'hara k'bagabi ha'seif b'shmayim v'aretz imshov. Okay, so we all know that the spheres are split into 3 levels, right? There's Kava Yamin, Kava Shmuel, and Kava Emtzoi. So, right? Kava Yamin is Chesed, Kava Shmuel is Gvura, then the Kava Emtzoi. What's the point of Kava Emtzoi? So if you know the pictures of the spheres, the diagrams, so the way it works is, you have Chachma Bina, Das in the middle, Das in Gvura, Tiferes, yeah? That's right. So, this is the stam. In the diagram, the Kasser will always be in the middle also. So there's this thing that all the stuff that in the Kav Amsai go up to Kasser straight. All the other spheres have their own Kavim, they come from each other, they come from spheres. Right? They're a development of a certain Kav. What is the Kav Amsai? Kav Amsai is Kasser. In other words, all the middle spheres are connected to the Ma'am Yishtalshus. What is the connection between all the spheres and Ma'am Yishtalshus? So the general Nekuda is that any tnuah of either connecting hafchim, connecting opposites, or having a certain relationship with something outside of you that demands a deeper connection to the inyan, will have to be connected to something that's more optimistic, to something that's not just a way of taking it, but something that's connected to that. And that's connected to the Ma'alei Shtalshus, that's connected to Kesser. So Yisoid is the power of Ashkol. So like it speaks about in the Geras HaKodesh, for a person to have the power to give something over, it's connected to how much he connects to the concept and how much it connects to the person that he's giving it over to. So Yisoid is connected to Seif, it's connected to Kesser. This is why we say, right, where's the Yisoid? Yisoid is Kichel B'Shamayim V'Aretz. Why is Yisoid Kichel B'Shamayim V'Aretz? So the beer, according to this way of learning, is Koil B'Shamayim V'Aretz. So we know that Yisoid is Koil, but it says this Lashon Kichel B'Shamayim V'Aretz. So the explanation is that the Koil includes Shamayim and Eretz, which is Sai, Ruchnius, Sai, Gashmius, all different elements. Koil includes all of them. Koil is all inclusive. Why? Because Seiviv's way of relating to elements is in a way that all the elements are Rishav. So, and Yisoid is Mushrish and Seiviv. Okay. So, according to this beer, if Koil means Seiviv, so now we're stuck. We're saying that the Ma'ila of Melech L'Sadon Eved over Yisrael Tzbakeilis that were Mamshel L'Mayim L'Shashos. But now we're saying that even Koil is also L'Mayim L'Shashos. It's also Seiviv. So what's the chiddush from Melech L'Sadon Eved? Says the Rebbe Tzarech Loimer Shagilu D'P'nes Melech Yelosha D'Kem HaMitzvahs L'Mayil Gam P'nes Seiviv. So it must be that the Melech, which is what's nimshach through mitzvahs, through Sada, is even higher than Seiviv. What does it mean higher than Seiviv? Seiviv who Shayach Loilam is Elu Shalamaylam Yam V'Kelus Kol Mkar. Seiviv doesn't mean it's no such thing as Eilus. Even in Seiviv, it's still Eilus. Seiviv is just a different way of relating to Eilus. Right, al derech in a person. You have Ratzin and Keiches Premium. Right, the muscle for Seiviv and Mamal. You have the Keiches HaNefesh, and you have the Ratzin of the Nefesh. The Ratzin of the Nefesh isn't something, it doesn't relate to things, it doesn't connect to things. It doesn't affect your Keiches. Of course it affects your Keiches. Everything that you do, everything that you're interested in, everything that you kachid is affected by your Ratzin. Elamai. Ratzin is a power that just reveals your etzem's connection to it, and it's not affected by the different type of thing that it's talking about. Everything is the same nekuda, that this is what I want. So it's the way of relating to it is not connected to the inyan prati, it's connected to the etzem, but you're still relating to something. You're still connecting the things to a different perspective on elements, but it's still connected to elements. We still say Kichel B'Shamayim V'Aretz, still heaven and earth. Elo Shul Mechaber Ma'achtam Da'achad B'Shamayim V'Aretz. But like the Targum translates, he's Ma'achid, he brings together, they're all unified in one nekuda. But mitzvahs is higher than that. They are mitzvahs, am shachas gilui atzmos and save Shul Amayil M'Shaychas Lo'ilamis L'Mayil Gami Seiv. But through mitzvahs is higher than that. Mitzvahs is Mamshach Atzmos. The word of Atmos, it's not a different way of looking at Eilamis. Atmos is the Eibush the way he is. It's higher than there ever being in of Eilamis. And that's what's Nimshach to Kiyam HaMitzvahs. Before Ba Maamar, the Amshach, so they Kiyam HaMitzvahs, in Primis Akaz. Like it says in the Maamar, the what we Mamshach through mitzvahs doesn't say Stam Kesser, which is Seiviv. He says Primis Akaz. What's the word of Primis HaKesser? Chiluk shebein Arich T'tzenius HaKesser. La'at Primis HaKesser hu, the Arich, hu sheiri shemakar netzolim, elo shum makef aleim, seiv. La'at tu kubchina tachteina shebematzi, lenet seiv shemayim l'shaychas lo'ilim. Right, we know there's two levels in Kesser. This T'tzenius HaKesser, Primis HaKesser. What's the difference in these two levels? So, what Chassidus says is that Kesser is the mamutza between the Eibusher himself and the Ilmis and Sphiris. So, every Memutza has to include two inyanim. It has to include the way the source is, and it has to include the beginning of what he wants to get to. So there's two parts of Kesser. There's the part of Kesser that reveals the etzem of the mashpia. It reveals the interests and the deeper inyanim of the source itself, of the Eibusher himself. Then there's the union of Arich, which is the Eibish's interest in the Eilumis, the Eibish's connection to Eilumis. This is the two levels of Arich and Atik. Some places in Chassidus, similar to Ratzon and Tainug, where Tainug is the person's connection to it, and Ratzon is where he's pulled, where he's looking for something outside of him. So upon him, what he says here is that what's through mitzvahs, he doesn't say Stam Kasser, he says Primius HaKasser, because this is the Nekudah. Seiviv could be connected to Eilumis. What we're talking about here is that we're being Mamshech V'etzem, which is higher than Seiviv. It's not just the Inyan of the Ma'am Ishtal Shlus, it's the Eibush himself's connection to the Inyan. Vurba Maamar, the Melech Hilo Tiferes. Isa B'zei Hashem, Melech to Kutshabrichu B'chnes Tiferes. Tiferes Mamshech V'primis HaKasser. Now the Maamar goes on to say that what's Melech? What's Melech l'sad and Evet? Melech is Tiferes. We just said that Melech is Primis HaKasser. So what's the connection between Tiferes and Primis HaKasser? So it's the same. It's by Hamshach before, right? We said that Kava Mtzoi is Mamshach from Kasser. So you say it's Mamshach from Kasser. So what we say is also that Tiferes, which is also in Kava Mtzoi, is Mamshach from Primis HaKasser. And therefore, Melech Hilo, which is Tiferes, will also be referring to the Primis HaKasser. What's the difference between Tiferes and Yisayt? We both said the same thing, that they come from Kava and Tzoy. What's the difference? Shloimah, Tiferes Tafke Mamshech Primis HaKasser Avshkam, Yisayt B'Kava and Tzoy. What's the pshat that Tafke Tiferes is Mamshech Primis HaKasser? Even though also Yisayt is in Kava and Tzoy, who? Ki Chagas, that's Mamitis. What's the difference between Chesed V'or Tiferes and that's a Chod Yisod? So in other words, we're saying Kav Tzoy, right? The part is Kav Tzoy, but there's two sets of Kav Tzoy, right? There's the Chesed V'or Tiferes set, Tiferes of the Kav Tzoy of Chesed V'or Tiferes, and there's not a Chod Yisod set. The Yisod is the Kav Tzoy of that. So what's the difference between the first set and the second set? Chesed V'or Tiferes is the hergish of the person towards the thing. That's a Chod Yisod is the ability to be mashpiyah, the ability to give it over. Hey, and I gilu the Kasser shal Yisod shal Yada hi ashpo v'chinas shayoshan atzol. Gilu the Kasser shal Tiferes shal Ma'alam ashpo v'chinas Primis HaKasser. So he says the Geschmack of art. The difference in how you're mamshech the Inyan of Kavam Tzoy, the Inyan of Kasser, into this sphere will depend on what type of sphere it is. If it's a sphere that's connected to the Inyanim, the way they are in the person, to the Etzem, to the Etzem of the person, so then what level of Kasser will be Nimshach in that Kavam Tzoy? It will be mamshech the deepest connection that the person has to the thing, which is Primis HaKasser. But when it comes to a sphere that's more chitzoniistic, it's a sphere that its point is to connect to the things outside of it. So what inyan of Kasser will be Nimshach through the Kavam Tzoy will be mamshech a level of Kasser that connects to the levels outside of Kasser, and that is the inyan of Chitzonius HaKasser, and therefore Yisayt is mamshech from Chitzonius HaKasser, and Tiferes is mamshech from Primis HaKasser. So when we say that the Melech is nimshach through Kiyama Mitzvahs, it's talking about Primis HaKasser, which is nimshach through Tiferes. Okay, stop here.